Welcome back to Hearthstone Masters Tour Los Angeles, presented by T-Mobile. Doa and Frodan here for our second semi-final match between Bankyugi and xBlyzes. We've got the champion from Hearthstone Masters Tour Arlington taking on, I don't necessarily want to say a newcomer, but a player that we haven't really seen go quite this deep before in a Masters Tour.
Yeah, that's right. Bankyugi, don't know too much about the history, but has been playing for quite some time.
Yeah.
And it's funny because when I look at Bankyugi's Twitter account or social media, he just plays a lot of Hearthstone in general. He's tweeted recently about arena game mode. He it seems like he's also playing a lot of constructed, obviously, but not too much information outside of that. We do know that he's also qualified for a couple of Masters tours prior to it, and we do know that even just getting to this point is not easy because you see how many matches he had to play in qualifiers throughout his career. He's played in over 500 matches. That's a ton of grinding.
It's like, you want to know what it takes to be a pro gamer? Like, that's what it takes to be a pro gamer. You need to have like ambition and drive at that level to just keep playing and playing and playing, you know? His opponent, perhaps on the road to being our first ever 2 in a row Masters Tour champion. I don't believe that's happened before. xBlyzes, of course, won in Arlington just about a month ago. Now on track to possibly get there and win it again.
Yeah, we had some players who were threatening to do that. Felkane from France, another French player, in fact.
He was close last time.
He was pretty close, but I mean, he's consistent. We've had players who've done equally staggering feats who have gotten very close to back-to-back crowns. Most notably, I think Bunny Hopper, who won a seasonal championship, then got second in the following season, almost being able to two-peat back-to-back mega events, similar in scope to the Masters Tour, although I think many would argue that the seasonal championships were even tougher back then, given that it was truly like a gauntlet of sorts. But Masters Tour is still very competitive. You see how desperately these players want it.
Yeah, that's huge. To make this far is amazing. Bankyugi with his Mage, as you can see, and then xBlyzes bringing the Priest as we take a look at the deck check brought to you by T-Mobile. What do you think about this combo Priest? I mean, its days are numbered. We already know that this is going to be gone when some of these cards get retired.
Yeah, I like this deck in terms of what it represents, which is a very high skill, aggressive combo deck that has a ton of lines of strategy that you can adapt. And also, almost every matchup has specific nuances about it. It's almost kind of like the way that you wish combo decks were powerful. Like some combo decks in the past of almost any card game, it could be pretty straightforward and linear, right? Like if you look at back in the day, Miracle Rogue. Yeah,
exactly.
Miracle Rogue back in the day was like, oh, I just hope I draw Auctioneer. And if I don't, I'm kind of stalling until I get it. And it was kind of binary in terms of the results. And I feel like with Combo Priest, it's such a complex deck of early game decision making that has such hard punishes that it feels like a very good, delicate, seesaw of risk versus reward. And I like that a lot. That being said, when it wins so dominantly sometimes that I always feel like, how did we allow this to exist for as long as it can?
So, you can have the situation where like turn 4, you just hit somebody for 25 damage. You're like, well, I guess that's Combo Priest. Topsy Turvy is a pretty good card, but like you're totally right as we see the game get started here, where Combo Priest I think is really a game about knowing what minions you have are the most vulnerable to what your opponent has access to, because what you buff is so integral in if you can win or not, right? And deciding which minions to buff with what is based solely on a knowledge of what your opponent has and what they're capable of playing, which is, I think, where a lot of the difficulty in playing this deck well comes in.
Yeah, exactly. I think these kinds of elaborate situations that have a lot of payoff and a lot of punishment.
I love it.
That those decks I find, quite frankly, I think those decks are too challenging for me to climb ladder with. I think it's because it's a very straightforward system. If you win, you gain a star. If you lose a star, and that's the progress you would have made otherwise. It's not like one win is worth more than the other until you hit legend. So, I always felt like this deck wasn't reliable enough for me to climb, but clearly xBlyzes isn't scared to bring it in tournament, and it still has a very good win rate, being able to only have 2 priests in the finals or in the top 8, but yet making the final.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like if you're grinding ladder, you just want a deck that you don't necessarily need to use 100% of your brain power every single game for, right? Like Dragon Hunter would be my deck of choice for grinding the ladder right now. Whereas, like, if I want to have fun or like really test myself, I'll play like Highlander Mage or this deck, you know. But in a tournament where you're supposed to, if your brain's not on 100% every game in a tournament, then why are you playing? I think it's good to bring something like this. Drops a Ritualist just to give some extra health over to the injured Tolvir as well. So already creating a bit of a scary board for Mage to deal with.
Yeah, I think that this is already something that warrants like evaluation of whether or not you should use really key removal, like Zephyrus. But you know, you don't have to necessarily wait for it just yet because your opponent still has to commit to stuff like Divine Spirit Interfire. It starts to get really, really scary though when you start to look at turn 5 onwards and you're at like 20 health and you just look at the possibility of you dying at any moment.
Right. Topsy-turvy in the hand already. And do you go for the High Priest Ammon on curve? It's so scary to do this when your opponent has so much in their hand, but Mage doesn't really. I mean, I would say if you're gonna do it, now might be a good time. Because, like you said, Mage has a lot of good, like, big AoE board clear. Early game, it can get a little bit tricky. He's going to go for it. You could see he was agonizing over it.
Yeah, and I think, it has to do with the secrets, like, what is it going to be? He did attack with the injured Tolvir first, which would have been weaker to Vaporize, but your opponent did coin a secret. And look at this. We're talking about using early Zephyrus. Shadow or Pain. Yep. I think this is a great call, given that the punishment would have been incredibly high with the Psychopomp play.
Psychopomp?
Oh, he gets it anyways.
Oh, he got it back. Wow.
Oh, Bankyugi is not happy to see that.
No kidding. Wow. And I love watching Blycha because he's one of the most emotional players we have. And look at him. He's just like jamming out, man, because he knows he won a coin toss there. He won a big 50-50, getting the legendary back again.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he already had a big payday winning over 30 grand for the previous Masters Tour. Not only can he double that, he's already in a pretty good position, if not already locked in his spot for Grandmasters. Blycha is pretty much just playing with house money at this point. I think that's why he feels so confident and in the groove.
Well, yeah, I mean, even if he goes home in the semifinals, that's still winnings-wise enough, like you said, to pretty much lock him into Grandmasters without knowing exactly for sure. It's a good start anyway. Another Ritualist. Ooh, okay.
So that's a second secret, and we have to slightly diffuse this.
Yeah, because you're really worried about Counterspell here, obviously. There's a Flame Ward, and that's going to be some good damage. Topsy-turvy, you don't want to get counterspelled.
Yeah, and if I'm Blycha, I actually do think about how much I want to commit to the board right now, because when you do play Blansamde, you draw a ton of cards, so you will have a lot of pressure. But, at this point, he's just pressuring him down. One of the things that people were talking about when this deck was first rising to prominence mid last year was that the fact that this is almost a misnomer. It's not actually like a true combo deck, even though you do have combos in it. It feels much more like an aggro deck that has game-ending combos at any point.
Yeah, and it kind of feels like Zoo that has access to just like crazy burst.
Oh yeah, yes, exactly. Zoo did used to have that, right, with like Leroy and Soulfire back in the day.
Right, but we're talking like crazier burst even.
Yeah, it's kind of functions similarly in that if you're in a position to punish, you will punish them very hard.
Right.
And I think that this deck really excels at that in particular. And so I think that's why people call it that combo priest, even though, most people wouldn't call it combo priest in terms of how you generally want to play it.
Well, it's like you were saying earlier, it's not combo in the traditional Hearthstone sense where you've got like Miracle Rogue, which is you're playing your own game, and what your opponent is doing is not quite as important to you as it is in some other games. Simat coming down.
Yeah,
and be able to clear a little bit with this.
Can't really do enough to stop all of the pressure, but you can stop a little bit of it. And now Blycha has, I believe, guaranteed lethal with Power Word Shield and Topsy-Turvy. And that's going to wrap up game number one. Blycha is in
Yep.
the zone, closing out
Wow.
game one with a bang.
Yep. Feels good to finish your opponent off with a 7-1 at the end of the day. He's like ultimate magma rager, right? And Bankyugi might be raging a little bit as Blycha takes the win with combo priest. And would you say maybe you're the most worried about getting a win with this deck in your set of decks if you're Blycha?
I would say that you actually feel fairly confident in it once you ban things like Hunter, which are great at stopping you early,
Sure.
because you still have like Mage as a matchup that you can go against. So I personally, and also there's Druid. So I think that in the end, the priest was still well positioned, which is why Blythe just started with it.
Yep. Now he has got rogue and a mage yet to work with. It kind of almost looks like we're playing against each other here.
Well, I feel really good about my game one victory.
You've got an early lead, but I'm coming back.
I mean, I
Is this
wouldn't mind being Blythe just for a moment because clearly he is one of the hottest streaking players in Hearthstone right now, and
Yeah.
that's a real thing. People have really big upswings in games of variance in general, and so when you do, just enjoy the ride. Don't try to like overthink it and be critical of anything too much. Just
Mhm.
do your best and forget the rest.
Confidence helps too in this situation. One of the worst things you can do in a game like Hearthstone is be constantly second guessing every move. And if you're coming off of a big tournament win like Blycha is, and you've made it all the way back to the semis of another one, you're going to have enough confidence to be like, no, I know I'm a good player because I can, literally see the results I've had. And so I don't need to second guess myself.
Yeah, and if you think about it too, in terms of like through the lens of a pro player, a lot of times it's very easy to look at Blycha and point out some mistakes, right? Like
Sure.
last time for Masters Tour Arlington, we were some people were very much microscoping onto a couple of situations where Blycha clearly misplayed and felt like, you know what, even though he won, felt like there was ways he could tighten up his play. And I like that, players who are able to just bounce back and say, you know what, forget it. Like I won anyways. That's what's important. I'm going to try to continue to build on this momentum. And we saw players like Pavel, for example, 2016 world champion, kind of experience that same kind of level of scrutiny where he won a lot, but people were saying like, oh, is he just because he has like better read on deck preparation and not necessarily his play skill? And I think that Pavel very quickly silenced a lot of his critics by going on one of the most insane win streaks we've ever seen in competitive Hearthstone history. And I kind of hope that this is the beginning, or possibly, just Blycha hitting his stride finally.
Yeah, that's the question. Taking a look at Bankyugi's Highlander Mage right now, not running the Mountain Giant. These are kind of the pretty common techs we're seeing in this deck right now. Cartoon Defender in there as well, of course. Looking for the Escape Mana Saver. Yep, he's got that in there as well. So some people have been taking out the Fire Tree Witch Doctor in this deck. What do you think about that?
I think that Fire Tree Wick Doctor. It's actually funny that you asked that because I was playing some Highlander Mage during my series breaks, and I was running into some awkward moments where Fire Tree Witch Doctor wasn't getting the consistency of playing it early because there does seem to be some misconnection with dragons, right? Even though there
Yeah,
are a decent amount of dragons, there's also like a lot of times there's just no dragons in your hand.
right.
And so I felt like I was missing an early game and late game scenarios. It felt, like a Hail Mary attempt to save me. And I was burning 2 mana when I really want to be spending like turn 7, 8, 9 playing powerful stuff. So
Mhm.
I've kind of gone back and forth, and I'm actually kind of doubting whether or not I really want Fire Tree Witch Doctors in my deck because I want something a little bit more consistent. So
Right.
I'm on the fence right now, Doa, because like basically there was games that I drew it, and it wasn't high impact at all.
I started seeing more people take it out, and so I've been playing with it out so far. And there are definitely games where it's like, man, if I just had that 2 mana minion to just put out there and just have something on the board, I'd be doing so much better. But then there are so many other games, like you were saying too, where you just don't get the value out of the Fire Tree Witch Doctor that you were hoping for. And so it's tough. It's a tough spot in the deck right now. It's a tough slot to sort of like decide what to fill with.
Yeah, and a lot of times, if you're an intermediate or advanced player looking to even find small edges like that, just do the math. Like you look at how many dragons there are in the deck. Sometimes like 5, sometimes even 6 if you go, and you just think about how many cards you're drawing versus what's the average time you end up picking up the Fire Tree Witch Doctor per game. Then you just start thinking about like whether or not it's useful. However, the big thing is, Doa, in tournaments, a lot of times having one-ofs or like these small unusual techs can
Mhm.
be the difference maker that, wins you that one game. Because if you're talking about ladder, we're talking about large volume of games. And you play
Right.
50 games,
Right.
that's when like Fire Tree Witch Doctor clearly shows performances versus other cards that you want to put in. But in tournaments, that's why you see those one-off things to try to really influence those one-time best of fives that you play against your opponent. And that's where I think Fire Tree Witch Doctor can really shine because you can't really prep often and against a Fire Tree Witch Doctor. And plus, the element of surprise is a very big thing with the resource generation in Hearthstone.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, just having that random spell can mean the difference between getting a kill on the opponent, like saving yourself for just like one more turn or something like that. So I don't know. I might put it back in, but usually Tice's deck lists are the ones I go for as far as like what influences my own. And he's not running it right now, so I'll just keep not running it for a while.
Sure.
We'll
Yeah, and
see.
I think that Highlander Mage, even though it hasn't really performed nearly to the level of what other people were expecting, because I was hanging out with Hunter Ace and
Mhm.
saying a few other people before Masters Tour LA, and they were kind of predicting that there would be a lot of Mage mirrors, and that's largely because Mage doesn't feel like a class you would ban, but it does feel like an effective deck against some other classes, particularly Druid.
Right. It's like
Um,
Warrior was last tournament, basically.
Right, exactly. And so, but at the same time, even though Mage has that 50% win rate, I would say that if you just take away the priest matchups, which you don't run into all the time, and unfortunately for Bankyugi, that ends up being the case here, Mage actually performed very well. So
Yeah.
I think overall, Mage was definitely a class to bring for this tournament.
It's funny because Hunter Ace was the one who was also telling me a little while ago about how he thought like Combo Priest was an extremely strong deck right now and that it was just really hard to play, but a lot of people are going to be, using it as they sort of like figure it out. And that seems like that's kind of what happened in this tournament too, where we saw Priest have a high win rate and have a lot more representation.
Got it. Yeah. I
It's
mean,
interesting.
I think that that is the challenge that a lot of the players have looked in a lot of different directions, and I do think that we talked a lot about Priest, but I got to say that the Paladin that Answer has brought, um, which ultimately is just kind of a tale of mastery, if you will, because he's played through 10,000 player cups with OTK Paladin. Clearly, and, there's a lot of people that also bring decks that And I think that might be another lesson to take away, which is be comfortable. Like take your comfort picks, play what you like. It helps a lot if you enjoy the decks that you play because you can get way more reps and you're much more in tune with it. And
Right.
I think that that's been a really strong aspect of certain players' deck lineups that they brought this weekend.
Okay. So, as you can probably guess by now, we're having a little bit of a technical issue with one of the computers right now in the process. And so it's going to be another couple minutes while we get that resolved. But it's been an interesting weekend. We'll put it that way. Like you and I, Frodan, we were in the studio rehearsing, and then the very next that evening, the studio show got canceled, of course. And so then the team had about 48 hours to try to set something up online. So our casting setup is, shall we say, not normal. It's not the usual. We're making it work, but it's just like say you had like you were trying to build a robot or something, and you just had to like work with the resources you had. There's going to be pieces falling off here and there, even if it does work for a little while. So we're
Yeah, I
kind
was
of
describing
making
it
it
to
happen.
TJ. Yeah, I
Yeah,
was describing it to TJ kind of like we're in a game of Hearthstone or maybe a game of Hearthstone Battlegrounds. Sometimes you have an
sure.
idea of what you want to do, but then you gotta like pivot sometimes based off the way the game's developing. And I think that's the
Yep.
same way with the Masters Tour Los Angeles broadcast. We've had several curveballs,
Yeah.
um, to say the least,
It's like
and I
you've
think
got
we're
to
just making
really
do.
you've got to really we had a really good board built up, but then like Planet Earth hit Gentle Megasaur and gave everything poison, and we are like, oh,
What
oh
the
no. We're like,
no?
no. Now we have to like try to
Wow.
figure this out.
Oh
But
god.
hey, we're back.
Okay.
We're back.
Okay. Well, we have the feed. Apologies, everybody, because
Yeah.
clearly the game has been going on for quite some time. We are on turn 9/10, and Blycha had played Dragon Queen Alexstrasza, getting the Twin Tyrant for some tempo, but keeping a Nixie in the hand,
Yeah.
all because of this reason. Amazing Reno just making everything go poof.
Yep, that's right. Just jumping into it. But like you said, with the Onyxia in the hand, we can get all those, or he can get rather, a board full of whelps. Gonna drop the Malagos instead of the Caligos, rather. It's a picture of Malagos, all right. Pretty sure. But
I
yeah,
think
Blizzard
so
have.
too.
Huh. I mean, there's a lot of blue dragons in World of Warcraft.
There's just a lot of dragons in general, which I'm not complaining. I think dragons are pretty cool.
The whole expansion's worth even.
Yes.
Yeah, there we go. Many whelps. Handle it. Bankyugi.
Okay, well, Bankyugi gets the Feral Spirits to block, although it's going to be annoying because I believe that will overload him for the following turn, unless I'm mistaken.
Yeah, which is definitely not what you want in the Mage Mirror. Drops a Dragon Queen Alexstrasza, gets a Waxadread, it looks like.
It might be the Bronze Herald as well on the right, which I don't think is super impactful. Oh, it's the
yeah, it's
a
Scale Lord.
Yeah.
Speaking of Murlocs, yeah. Not I'd be happy with the Waxadread though, at least. All right, yeah. Ray of Frost just to slow up the Onyxia a little bit. And you know, a free 5/6. Yeah, it's stuttering a little bit. We're okay. A free 5/6, you know, I'll take it.
Yeah, the problem is that the initiative entirely belongs to Blycha, as he will be going for an Alexstrasza play to try to be offensive and push damage. And this is exactly what we're talking about with, you know, Highlander Mage. Sometimes you just get this ability to pressure, or the ability just to be ahead of your opponent, and there's too many threats on the board.
Yep. Another Blizzard gets drawn for Bankyugi. Like you mentioned, I believe overloaded this turn. It was jumping around a little bit, but I think that's still the turn we're heading into right now. Yeah, just drops another Blizzard. The name of the game is Delay.
Yeah, and what's scary is now you start to get to the point where you're starting to fear a lot. There's the spell that I believe Kaligos discovered that you don't know. Malygos drops down. There's a threat of Zephyrus. Finds Flame Strike for big AoE damage.
Yep.
And it's free, by the way.
A free 8 damage Flame Strike to clear the board.
Not bad.
Yeah, why not just draw a couple cards too? The Book of Spectre is not quite as appealing as it used to be, but it is something, and his opponent down to 12 health right now. Lava Burst. Oh, I was so afraid that was going to go to face.
Oh, this is a tough spot for Bankyugi. He finds Malygos himself. Is this a situation where he has to go for Kaligos and then Puzzle Box?
Yeah.
Is that what has to happen here? Oh gosh, these are very mediocre to say the least.
Yeah, no kidding.
Okay, here we go.
Do a whole lot for you. It's time to Puzzle Box take the wheel. Is it going to be Blast Wave? Okay. Battle Rage? Sure, why not? Yeah, gets a Vaporize out there. Assassinate. Okay, at least it's your opponent's minion. That's good.
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay.
Wow, so many secrets.
Oh my god.
Whoa, okay. Oh, well, that's not ideal, but overall, not a terrible puzzle box. Pretty solid puzzle box.
Yeah. The secrets are also very annoying to deal with.
Right.
Blycha has to be careful. Understands that there is the threat of secrets that he's not aware of. If he just rips the Luna's Pocket Galaxy, that's going to go get counterspelled.
He almost did. You can tell.
He still has a free spell in the form of the Dragon Caster.
Right. Does dodge the counter spell, so to speak, with the Ray of Frost. And like you mentioned, the Dragon Caster can and will give him a free spell. Just going to be that Luna's Pocket Galaxy.
Yep. If he's planning on playing the Twilight Drake, he needed to hold on to it for the Dragon Synergy. That's one of the big things about Dragon Caster. Don't ever forget that.
Wow. Dude. How about that for a book? Luna's Pocket Galaxy into 3 really decent cards, actually.
Yep. And the Zephyrus for 1 gives him a little bit extra range if you want to be able to deal damage. Mass Hysteria?
Whoa, what?
Whoa!
Wow.
Clears the board.
Nothing like a free board clear. That feels good. All right.
I think Yuki too far behind in health.
That's the question, right? I'm trying to remember what that last secret was.
I believe Misdirection.
Misdirection? Okay. So, a lot of options to build some sort of board for Bankyugi right now.
There is like a 2-turn lethal setup if you put Siamat as a Divine Shield Wind Fury.
Right. He may be thinking the same thing. There's a Wind Fury, yep, and Divine Shield. So yeah, he's got the same idea, just trying to make it a little bit hard to remove. Frost Nova stops that cold for the moment.
And, well, I mean, here's like a big opportunity. Stargazer Luna with 1-mana minions in the deck. Woo!
Oh, wow. Yeah, Cartoon Defender, and he's just going to keep drawing. Runs into a Power of Creation. Okay, so that's where it ends. But like you said, it could have ended up being a big chain. Vivid Nightmare.
Oh my goodness, what is happening?
Dude, Reno. How did he unlock, like, Super Saiyan Reno here?
That's right. His hair is about to go blonde.
No kidding. You thought he was just a dragon? No, he's also a Saiyan as well.
Saiyan dragons. Now, that's a tribe I would play in Hearthstone Battlegrounds.
Yeah, I would take that. Yeah. Super Saiyan dragon. Yep. Hey, if he can be a dragon, he can be anything.
I mean, based off the way dragons are in Battlegrounds right now, they feel like they've turned Super Saiyan if you've been playing them lately.
They really do. Yeah. Red Whelp on your first turn, you're like, oh, nice. I'll take it. Big Ziliax, and Bankyugi really needed this. He needed to grab some of that health back. His opponent nearly at full already, so, you know, whatever on that stance. Frost for the freeze.
Not being able to kill the Stargazer Luna, I wonder if that's a good or a bad thing here, because Blight should probably want to play the minions off the top, but if this ends up going into a fatigue scenario, he has to be careful not to overextend himself.
I think you're exactly right. I mean, he's got the life lead, but it does seem a little bit risky sometimes. When you look at only 5 cards left in the deck of Blythe. Huh.
What can he do here? Like, I'm looking at the options off Zephyrus, and Zephyrus will clear the board, or most of it, because Twisting Nether, I believe, will still leave the microbots from the Snip Snap. He could also counter Ziliax with his own Snip Snap Ziliax play too, and it'll be a big Ziliax.
It'll be a much bigger one. And having that survive on the board for a couple turns too is going to help you kind of survive some of that fatigue. There's his own amazing Reno. Can't play it this turn, obviously. Drops assignment anyway. There's gigantic Ziliax, a 7/8. Wow.
Yeah, and this makes a lot of sense to me to just clear the little bit of the board. Just, you know, your opponent clearly is trying to set up like 2-turn lethal.
Yeah,
Pyroblast!
Oh!
Pyroblast
himself!
Reno, what are you doing?
No! That was just like the Reno Thanos play, right? Where it's like, there, now everything's balanced, right?
I guess so. Or that's when the Super Saiyan energy runs out?
I guess so.
There's an amazing tax to the body for attaining that level of power.
No. Apparently, yeah. His body just couldn't take it anymore. That is the meme worst case Reno scenario there.
Oh my god. People you're right. You're totally right. Streamers will always say that. Well, I guess I would if he pyroblasts himself in the face.
It happened.
It actually happened. Where were you?
This is semifinals of a Masters Tour tournament. That's the time to pyroblast yourself in the face. That's what Bankyugi is thinking right now. Trying to find some taunts with the Conjurer's Calling, but he's gonna have to use the Frost Nova instead, just to try to stay alive a little bit longer.
Right. Man. Zephyrus is guaranteed.
Yeah, at this point. That's it. It's gonna find the spell he needs. Take your pick.
Oh, a King Crush.
I was gonna say go King Crush for the swag, but you never know. Could be. It's because it's not Frost Traps. Misdirection though.
Yeah.
Oh well, it's gonna be a win. Yeah, smart to not take the King Crush. Yeah.
The misdirection would actually stop it.
That would have been even funnier, but wow, what an ending to that game. That was a bit crazy.
Yeah, absolutely wild. But that's going to be a 2-0 lead. Blythe, 1 game away from going to back-to-back finals. What an accomplishment for this young man. And I mean, look, there's no illusion or belief anymore that I think Blythe doesn't deserve going to Grandmasters based off his performance at the past 2 Masters Tour. This is exactly the kind of talent that we're looking for. And yeah, I mean that, perhaps people could look at certain corners and say he could play a little tighter in certain scenarios, but overall he's clearly got something working for him. And being able to get to this position 2-0 lead over Bankyugi and be able to shut down a challenge, that's also another thing to think about, right? If Bankyugi ends up getting very far in the top 4 but still not making the Grandmasters, it'd be very crushing to get this far and not make it. So his back is to the wall. Yeah, we'll see if he can pull it out.
All right, he's gonna try to get back into it with the Quest Druid, it looks like. And I think that's reasonable. Take a break from the Mage for a moment. You just pyroblasted yourself in the face, so step back, regroup a little bit.
Gosh, yeah. No, you're entirely right. Sometimes a layer of separation from it does wonders.
Right.
No different than sometimes just taking a break when you've lost a couple of games in a row. You can help reset the mind, so that way recency bias doesn't really start to nag at you a little bit.
He put Reno in the corner. He's like, "You're in timeout, Reno. Like, take a break and come back when you're ready to not pyroblast me."
Yeah, Reno got benched.
Yep. Bench for now.
Reno was confused. He hurt himself in his own confusion.
That's right. So now he's a Dragon Super Saiyan and a Pokemon. That's right. I mean, if you've got 2 Renos in your deck, you've pretty much caught them all at that point.
Yeah, I guess.
Gotta catch them all.
Well, we're gonna go to Rogue versus Druid. How do you feel like this matchup has been developing this top 8?
Well, it's been interesting because with the Druid, you just always kind of leave the possibility open of Druid just absolutely running things over completely. But with the Galakrond Rogue, you can have almost a similar situation where you can create this like big mid-game burst win condition that if the Druid does have a little bit slower of a start, you have a chance. But I think the trouble is that a lot of times once Quest Druid gets going, you lose the ability to close out if they start landing those Oasis and things, hidden Oasis, and just getting all that healing,
Yeah, I feel like Rogue has a hard time dealing with some of those bigger Druid minions, but a lot of the problems that I think Rogue has are not necessarily against Quest Druid, even though Quest Druid is still very good.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like it's more against the Embiggen Druids that don't allow Rogue to interact with it with spells. And I think that's what ends up becoming really tricky when you can't use a lot of your iconic combat tricks like Sap and Backstab to really get ahead of things like Fairy Dragon and whatnot. I think those decks usually give Rogue a little bit more trouble, but Quest Druid's still relatively competitive against Rogue.
Maybe I'm just scarred from my Quest Druid experiences on ladder.
And what happens on ladder for you, Noah?
I just get run over every game.
Well, I mean, they're both still really good matchups. Statistically, Quest Druid and Embiggen Druid both are about the same against the Rogue.
Sure.
But I personally, for me, when I've played a lot of the Rogue on ladder in the past, I did struggle when I guess maybe it's because when the Embiggen Druids came, they came in huge waves, and so I just remember losing over and over and over.
You play like 6 in a row.
Yeah, and that's probably why my impression is that Embiggen Druid is like a worse matchup, even though statistically Quest Druid is even slightly better against Rogue.
That kind of thing definitely sticks in your mind too. Like remembering yourself not being able to interact at all with your opponent's minions is definitely more painful than just straight up like losing a game,
Right.
So I definitely know what you mean there. Finds a prep. All right, out of that Ethereal Lackey, that's solid.
Yeah, that's very good. That's gonna be very useful with the High Spear and Togwoggle to get those really cheap treasures, and that's exactly what you need against Druid in this early game.
Yep, and he's just going to leave it at that. Just with a little bit on the board, just a Sky Vitir and the Evil Miscreant. Give your opponent a little bit to think about, but you're really just kind of building up those big combo turns.
Yeah, and this is the last turn here from Bankyugi to just kind of hold the line while he can.
Yep. Which
after this, he'll be able to play Nourish and some other stuff to finally start getting back on the board.
It always feels good to have that Crystal Merchant out as well, just to get a little bit more in your hand for when the quest activates, which is now. But, Baita, what's the plan? Draws the sap. Okay. See what he finds out of the Lackey.
Oh my
Another
goodness.
prep. It's got some good options. Do you take the Eviscerate here, actually?
I think I do like the Eviscerate, just because you might be looking for game-ending damage after you get this treasure from Togwoggle.
Yeah. Earlier Togwoggle than you see a lot of times, and he's thinking about it. Do you take something different from the wand? Usually it's just auto-grab the wand, but he's actually going to grab something a little bit different this time.
Whoa!
What?
Xerox Crown.
That's crazy. Wow. Maybe trying to. I
Go
wonder
ahead.
because like maybe he's trying to bank on Yugi, just assuming that it's the Bankyugi. I just said the sentence. He's trying to bank on Bankyugi, and then so one of the banks got dropped there. That was these guys' names, man. But anyway, he's expecting the wand maybe, and so you're not going to play around the crown probably.
Yeah, the crown to just summon legendaries can just
Yeah.
end the game in terms of stats as well. And, you know, he does know that Quest Druid, you know, very similar to a lot of other decks, don't have a lot of hard removal. They have spells that can help it.
Right.
Oh.
Oh,
wait,
for
hold
a
on.
giant Leroy.
Oh, my goodness. What is going to happen this turn? This is massive.
Oh, there's another flick, too. Okay.
Wait.
Dasa again, but no, he goes for the Dragon Queen Alexstrasza. This is going to be one of the craziest turns of the whole tournament, I'm telling you right now.
Oh, gosh.
All right. And it's going to be a massive Van Cleave. This is just going to be a board that I don't know how Druid is going to deal with this.
14-14 Van Cleef coming in here. This is such a huge amount of stats on board. What can Druid really do in this spot? There's no 40, big game hunter.
Like what? 32 32 of stats on the board right now.
Yeah, Bankyugi is
a lot of stats. I would say so. Blycha, you can tell, man. He's just trying to keep it together here.
Yep. And you can see why a lot of players is Blycha. Hold on. Blycha celebrating. I mean, he has drawn absolutely fire this entire series, and now he is backing up with big damage and big plays. That's going to wrap it up. 3-0 for Blycha.
Dude, a turn 7 win to close out the semifinal and send Blycha to his second grand finals in a row at the Hearthstone Masters Tour. What a game. Yeah, you can see the look on his face. He's shocked that even happened. But, you know, hey, when you're hot, you're hot when it comes to these card games. And he is on a streak that everybody else in the world should be afraid of right now.
Yeah, Blycha, that Blycha is so hot right now.
That Blycha, yep.
3-0, making quick work and being able to put his stamp onto Hearthstone history. Back-to-back Masters Tours finals, at least.
That was a faster semifinal than I thought we would have.
I know. We kind of had some long, drawn-out control games or like kind of battling back and forth, and all of a sudden, a quick 3-0 to mark the final series coming up next, which is Answer from China versus Blycha from France.
Yeah, so cool to see a player like Answer really banking on that Holy Wrath Paladin, the combo Paladin coming through, making it work where it looked like it was very tenuous a lot of times, but now he's got to go up against the reigning champion Blycha, looking for a two-peat in the Hearthstone Masters Tour. A feat that would definitely cement his Hearthstone legacy forever.
Oh, yeah.
That is going to be a great finals.
Can't wait.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Well, I guess that's probably where we just need to leave it for the semifinals. Short and sweet. But you'll be back in just a moment for the grand finals, won't you?
I will. Doa, thanks for hopping on and casting. I think it was great. Any final words before TJ joins us?
That's it. I mean, I'm happy to come back for another Masters Tour, such as it was looking forward to a big weekend full of games, and we didn't really, get that, but we've gotten a great top 8. It's going to be an awesome finals, and all I can say is I'm just looking forward to the next one now,
All right.
Cool. Well, we're going to send it to a break, guys, and when we come back, it will be the grand finals. TNC Answer taking on Blycha to decide who will be the champion of Hearthstone Masters Tour Los Angeles, presented by T-Mobile. Don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be back in a bit.
Masters Tour Los Angeles is brought to you by T-Mobile. Rank up with America's first and only nationwide 5G network.